Welcome to Jesus Coffee and Wine in 2026. And if you are watching, you'll notice we have a new set. We have a new backdrop. We have a neon sign. Yes, my very own neon sign that was gifted to me for Christmas from my stepfather. Does he know a girl or does he know a girl? Neon pink, lit up for all to see. I also did receive from my son a hoodie with my Jesus Coffee and Wine logo on it. I am not sporting it right now, but I have worn it a few times, and I think I'll consider it my very first official piece of merch, but merch to come if we continue to grow beyond the 5 of you that are so generously and graciously supporting me. I say that laughingly, but I actually am just thrilled at the opportunity to be able to do this. And if I've said a million times, if one person walks away from each episode feeling a little more seen, a little less crazy, and a little bit more understood, or that they can relate in a way that they hadn't before, that's my goal. My goal is just to create a community where we understand each other and maybe learn about some other things that people are dealing with that we are unfamiliar with. So anyways, what I wanted to do today for this very first episode of the year is talk a little bit about the year in review, 2025 in review, and also talk about the year ahead and what that means for me personally, what that means for this platform, what that means just in general, maybe for you. I'd love to encourage you as well. But, there's this funny thing with a podcast where I'm sitting here behind a mic in my basement with a ring light shining on me. And I feel like I have this connection to all of you, which is whomever is listening, friends and foes, I suppose. A shout out. How you doing? Thanks for watching. But I also I'm stifled a little bit when I think about doing episodes by myself because I fear I have nothing to say. Like, I feel like I have so much to say and nothing to say all at the same time. And so I hesitate to record episodes that don't include a guest. I value the people I've had on so much and the people that I have planned for the next year. And in the next few weeks, I'm so excited to share with you. There are people that women specifically, that I have learned from, that I believe in, that I'm inspired by. And I know that they have a story to tell, even if they're hesitant to think that they do. There's been a few of you out there that I'm working on convincing that your story is worth telling, because I so strongly believe that we all have a story to share, and we all have a story at all. We each have a story. We have all been designed in God's image, and it is my belief that that story has value, and if it has value to you personally, it will have value to others. So that's why we're here. So I've got my light, I've got my microphone, I've got my camera, I've got my daughter's candy jar. Sorry, memes. But I can't resist a good squashy every now and then. I'll buy you more, okay? I already know you're like, Mom, it's fine. I'll buy you more. So let's start off with a squashy. Also, I ate them all last night, but she had some bubs in there. And if you're familiar with Bethany Frankel at all on TikTok, she's been telling us about the Swedish candy for years. Maybe not years. Maybe years. I don't know. Anyways, Swedish candies. She was saying they're so good. And I've seen them. And then this year, my stepdad, he bought the kids each a bag of Bubs candy, which are these Swedish gummies that are called Bubs. And his sister, who passed, my dear aunt, a couple of years ago, we called her Aunt Bubs affectionately. Long story, but the kids all called her Aunt Bubs. He bought the Bubs as a gift. And so at Christmas, it was the first time I'd ever tried one. I don't know where they've been all my life, but I'm never eating another. Well, that's not true, because I just ate a squashy. I never really want any other candy other than a Bub, because squashies, which also were introduced to me via TikTok because of Taylor Swift. We don't need to get into our Swiftiedom or not. that is neither here nor there right now. But a squashy is a delicious half raspberry, half vanilla cream, marshmallow type gummy situation that I love. But Bubs are, I'm sorry, squashies are half raspberry, half vanilla. Did I say raspberry? Bubs are strawberry and vanilla. Same idea, but they have a sour coating on them. Listen, run, don't walk. I believe Target is the only place that has them. Go get yourself some Bubs. I need to invest. I digress, but the candy is very important to me. It should be Jesus Coffee Wine and gummies, but I wouldn't want anyone to get the wrong idea because I don't partake in those kind of gummies. So candy, I don't know. We can workshop that at a later date. Okay. Anyways, so I wanted to talk a little bit about 2025 because I'm not one for like my word for the year or New Year's resolutions. And obviously those are appropriate and popular things that people do. And I think they're wonderful. It's just nothing I've ever done or participated in. But as I was thinking about how to approach this episode and what I wanted to share, I just keep coming back to the past year of just being full of joy. And for us, you know, my husband and I just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And we threw a party because if you know anything about blended families, first of all, 10 years of marriage is something to celebrate for anyone. So let me just put that out there. But for us in particular, being in a blended family, we recognize the hard work that it's taken and the challenges that we've faced and how a lot of people don't survive the kind of dynamics that we have had to work through and wanted to, but it's challenging, right? Like being in a blended family, we say all the time, like, yeah, it's 10 years, but we feel like we get dog years credit, because we have marriage experience outside of our own together. And we can take some of that wisdom and apply it to our marriage, although it is night and day. But it is this like funny dynamic that, yes, we've been married 10 years, but there's so much more value there. Anyways, for us, we really wanted to celebrate that. And so we threw a party and we had our closest friends and family there. And every single person in that room meant so much to us and has been there with us, cheering us on and like been such great support for us and our kids and just such blessings to us. So we threw this party. Anyways, we did a vow renewal. And when I was writing my vows, I just kept coming back to one simple thing. And that one simple thing is that I love our life. That might make you like want to vomit. That might make you annoyed. That might make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. I don't know. I don't really care. That is just my truth. My truth is that I love my life. I adore my husband. As I sit here recording today, it's actually his birthday. So happy birthday, babe. Love you. But I just really am so grateful and I don't take for granted the blessings we have and the joy that I feel is a massive blessing. And, you know, of course we could take credit for working hard and digging in, but like some of it just feels like a gift. It just feels like I have this incredible man, these fantastic kids that are ours that, you know, it's just, we have a lot of hard. We have chronic illness. We have some learning challenges. We have some emotional stuff. Obviously, we have just normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill life challenges. But we also are just incredibly blessed with fantastic, loving, kind, respectful, God-fearing, amazing kids. And I count it all joy. I really, really do. 2025, in hindsight, to me, in retrospect, the whole year was just full of joy. I mean, in 2024, my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. That felt like a big blow. And I feel like when I think of 2024, I think of Ruby was born and Emily was diagnosed. And so those are big, momentous things in a life, right? The birth of a child obviously is significant. And this major turning point in my oldest biological daughter. Ella's my oldest daughter. My stepdaughter, who I adore, in case you don't know, just to be clear. So I I think when I think of 2024, not that there's like the good and the bad, but it's like these big significant things. When I look at 2025, there was no massive major thing. There was no birth, there was no death, um, there was no diagnosis, there was no hurdle that felt insurmountable, which, as you know, listening to this and just living life, like there are things that aren't, but feel insurmountable at times. And 2025 was just a good year for us. We had more than one experience traveling with the kids, and opportunities that we don't take for granted, that are once in a lifetime things that we were blessed enough to be able to do, and travel out of the country and watch all of our kids enjoy things and see things for the first time, and like have these new experiences together and with us. And that was incredible. And watching my daughter, who's suffered with life-threatening food allergies her entire life, and navigating a new illness, be able to go out and go to a new country and eat food and enjoy it and feel confident in her choices. Like, those are the things that stick with me. Not, we saw this, building, or um this countryside. All of that is incredible. But what stands out to me is being able to watch my kids grow in ways that are critical to their lives, that are, life lessons that they may not recognize as such right now, but that I was able to witness along the way. And not just in travel, but in their, attempts at doing new things and taking on new jobs and entering new seasons of life. All of those things have been so exciting and joyful. And so I really am grateful for 2025. It's easy to look back at that and go, okay, I can see the past year is wonderful. So what's this year going to bring? And I'm bucking against that, because I feel that a little bit like, well, that was great. Now what? And I'd be lying if I didn't admit that this year has already been met with its own set of insignificant but challenges. Okay. Like, that's just life. And 2025 had enough of, there was still challenge, but overwhelmingly it was full of joy. And so as I look into 2026, I'm hopeful. I'm excited at what's ahead, because I've also learned that even in the challenge, even in the disappointments, even in the moments where I have plans that get derailed by circumstance or other people, for whatever reason, I actually have learned to turn that disappointment into excitement. And this is not me trying to be like positive Pollyanna. Okay. It's not. That's just never been me. But I have learned over the years, especially being married to my husband, who's so positive, to fight against the default of negativity that I am so accustomed to, or was so accustomed to in most of my life. So and with time and age and experience comes some wisdom. And I think in learning that when things don't go our way, instead of being so fraught and so upset in the moment, I have learned that I can feel those things, but I've also learned to set my eyes forward and set my eyes above, actually, because I know that God either protected me from something and or has something bigger, better, unimaginable. And in every instance I can think of over the past decade where there has been any sort of disappointment or challenge or seemingly insurmountable situation, it has turned out to be that God has revealed a better, bigger, more amazing plan, blessing situation than I ever could have imagined. And so I'm just grateful for that experience, for that wisdom, honestly. And I'm carrying that with me into 2026. One of the other exciting but challenging things about 2025 was I started a master's program, which I've always said how much I enjoy learning. I enjoyed I didn't enjoy high school so much, but I really enjoyed college, maybe a little too much, but the academic side was something I really enjoyed. And so in the spring of this year, I got this crazy idea to go back to school to pursue a master's degree in biblical studies, which I'm loving every minute of it. Even the challenging times where I'm up until 1:30 in the morning writing a paper and feeling like I don't know what I'm doing and my bed is covered with books and my husband's like, "What the heck are you doing?" But I work myself up. I don't know what I'm doing. This is crap. Like I can't compete with these other people and these programs. They sound so academic and smart and heady and like I don't know anything. And I'm feeling this big. And then I'll spend all this time and I put in all this energy and I submit my work and I've done really well. And so like every time I face one of those assignments, it's also this like personal spiritual challenge hurdle for me to like get over my fear of not being good enough and not being worthy enough and not being smart enough and not being prepared enough. And the Lord has continued to equip me with the time, with the desire, with the ability. And I love all of it, but it is scary. Like for those of you in your 40s and above, when we were in college, or if you didn't go to college, when we were in high school, we had books and we had paper and we had pens and pencils. And like, I'm very tactile. So what was so intimidating to me was to have this program and be like, okay, I'm going back to school, but everything's on a screen and I need to highlight and like hold it and flip the pages and write it out. And so that was really, really intimidating to me. And I've found what works for me. And sometimes that means ordering hardcover or hard copy books on Amazon. And sometimes that just means adjusting my style. Sometimes whatever, it doesn't matter. My point is like those kinds of challenges are welcome and I embrace them and I'm working through them. And it might sound boring to you. Like, why are you going back to school? But we all have those things in life, right? Where it's like maybe something we want to do, but we're intimidated. Maybe it's something we've dreamed of, but we're scared. And I guess my point in sharing this is not to ramble on about my college education, but to encourage you that like, if you want to, you will. Which leads me to another point. And again, thinking back to 2025, as much as it was full of joy, it did come with some disappointment and some lessons learned. And so one of those lessons is just I've had to learn to work through some guilt that I carry in how I handle certain relationships. And what I've had to learn and to let go of is that it is not always my responsibility to drag somebody alongside me just because they've always been there. I have been blessed with so many incredible friendships, lifelong friendships, and newer friendships that I'm so grateful for. But it is true that there are seasons in life, and some people are meant to be there for a season, and some people are meant to be there much longer or throughout the seasons of life. And I've recently just had to learn that I need to like be okay when those seasons are over. That's really tough. And I've talked about some of that on this podcast. I've alluded to some of that, but that's just the reality of it. I have wonderful friends. I have wonderful friends that have been in my life for a very long time. And I have wonderful friends that were in my life for a very long time and may or may not be with me in this coming year. And I've had to be okay with that. And when I say be okay with that, it's not that I don't want them alongside me. Life happens. And I don't think we talk about it enough. I think, we talk about boundaries and we talk about, sisterhood and, the juxtaposition of those two things, like, people that we hold dear and then people we need to shut out. But what about the relationships that fizzle? What about the relationships and the friendships that are no longer? And maybe it is because of hurt or disappointment or something did go wrong, but I'm learning to be okay with that, not in a way that's like, whatever, I don't care, like I'm okay with it, goodbye, but more in an accepting kind of a way and in a way that's like, I still love you and want the best for you, but we are no longer doing this alongside each other. That's been really hard for me. if I'm being honest, that's just a really difficult reality, but part of adulthood. And I just don't think we talk about it enough. And I think we go to these extremes, and there's all of these buzzwords on social media of toxic relationship and narcissism and, you know, mean girls and mean mom groups. And it's like, yes, all of that exists, but somewhere between that and your best friend who lives next door is reality. There's a spectrum of relationship. And I just welcome that more. And I think the more we can accept that, the more grace we can have for other people. At the same time, when somebody exposes they're crazy to you, don't let the door hit them on their way out. You know what I mean? That's just, here we are. Anyways, so 2025, full of joy, some lessons, some difficulty, overwhelmingly wonderful. As I look to 2026, I hope for more joy. I hope this is another year where I look back and go, wow, that was another fantastic year. One thing that I am really focused on for this coming year is soaking up all of the moments with my people. And by my people, I mean my husband and my children. We have people outside of that. We have, like I just said, friendships that are important. We have obviously family members that are very important. But as we look ahead to our kids getting older, and particularly the twins are juniors, they're going to be seniors in high school next year. They're getting their licenses like next week, believe it or not, or the week after. No, next week. Ugh. It's important for us to soak up the time with them. And what's really interesting is having Ruby, having a 2-year-old, she'll be 2 next week as well. Having a 2-year-old is its own set of like wonderful and fun and crazy. Honestly, in your 40s, you're just exhausted and you're like, what am I doing? But when you have this like lively little nugget running around with and alongside these amazing teenagers who adore her and she adores them, when we're sitting in the living room at night on a random weeknight and they all are choosing to hang out together with us, and boyfriends and girlfriends are here and friends, and the baby's giggling and they're chasing her, and another subset are doing homework and another subset are watching a game, and we're all together, our house is just full of so much joy. And let me be honest, okay? I never, ever could have imagined that I would love and cherish these moments as much as I do. Maybe that makes me sound bad. I'm not really sure, but I just couldn't have ever pictured the dynamics that exist in our house right now. And, you know, we're well aware that some families are like, they mandate family time and they mandate dinners or mandate game nights and you must participate and we're going to have family time. We just don't operate that way. I understand the intention behind it for some people. I also think for us, we just have a really cool dynamic with our kids. And it feels that much better when it's their choice. And lucky enough for us, it often is their choice to be here and to like hang out with each other. And, you know, you'll have, like I said, you'll have these different subsets, but all in the same like vicinity, while my husband is doing a ridiculous number of push-ups in the middle of the living room or in some strange yoga pose, because if you know Joe, he's always stretching. And I, a lot of times, find myself kind of sitting back, not that I'm not participating, but sitting back and watching it all unfold because I'm like trying to record it. Like, moms, do you ever sit in a moment with your kids and like try to hit the record button and like hold it down so that in a week, in a month, in a year, in 10 years, in 30 years, if we're all lucky enough to be here, that we can close our eyes and like look back on those moments and see them and smell them and feel them and hear them. Like, I feel like I've been doing more of that, knowing the twins are at this like fork in the road almost, not in a negative way, but at this crossroads of life where they're going to be going out on their own in a very real way as they look at colleges and as they go on and become adults. And then right after them is Liam. And then right after Liam is Emily. And right after Emily is Levi. And Ruby is obviously a far away from that, but it's a very real transition period for us. And so I want to be able to soak it all in and soak it all up. And I do feel like I've been very mindful of that. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not saying I'm doing it well all the time, but I'm acutely aware that these moments are fleeting. And I am also extraordinarily grateful that I have the opportunity to press the record button, and it's not forced, it's not mandated, and it's pretty frequent. And I'm like very, very grateful for that. Now, if you asked my kids, maybe they would they would have a different story, but I don't know. I don't think they would. I actually don't think they would, and that's the biggest blessing that we have. So I just think as I look at 2026 personally, of course I want there to be more joy and more blessing. And I know there's going to be challenge because, like I said, we've already been met with some challenge this year. It's to be expected. There are some situations in life that just continue to nip at your ankles, and that's all it is. It's like gnats on a dewy summer night. Do summer nights get dewy? I don't think so. Humid? Gnats. When do they bite you? It's like, you know what I mean? In the summer, it's like, ugh, especially at the lake. Okay. That's what it feels like. There's no insurmountable challenge that we are facing right now with health or well-being of our children. They are safe. They are wonderful kids. And, sometimes I want to choke them with their own laundry, but they're wonderful. And that's just reality, right? That they're still teenagers. They're still our kids. We're still a household of 8, which sounds so crazy, but in reality, it is. We're so used to it. But they're great kids, and I look at the challenges we've already had, and I'm sure the unexpected challenges to come. But as I was saying earlier, knowing that God is in control and having the experiences we've had in life, I know that regardless of what we face, even when it's hard and even if it feels horrible, that He is good and that there will be an answer, a resolution, a better on the other side. I just know it to be true. I've lived it too many times. So embracing the challenges is something I'm open to for 2026. I'd rather not, if I'm being honest. I'd rather just be a cakewalk, but I know better. So that's kind of just where we're at. I'm excited about the challenges because I know that I've seen the other side too many times. When I was recently on a college visit with my stepdaughter, it was a great tour and fine, and a school she's not going to be at and not one that we were enthralled with for her. Great school, not for her, whatever. But as we were there, I was just reminded, like we walked into the one area where they had all the mailboxes. And it like immediately threw me back into my college experience I remember all the mailboxes, and I turned to her and I was like, Ella, I never had mail. Like I went to school locally and I was 20 minutes away from home. And so I was home frequently and there wasn't a need for mail per se, but, I was like, I never want you to have an empty mailbox. Like I have learned those kinds of things, and I'm excited for this next season with my kids because I want them to have the most positive, best experience they can have. And for as much as we can be a part of that or affect that, we will. But as we were on that college campus, when we left, we kind of had this like debrief, of course, as you would. And the conversation was like, gosh, that wasn't for me, but like, how am I ever going to figure this out? And I remember feeling those things. I remember walking on college campuses. I remember loving some of them, hating others, being confused by some, being, intrigued, but like not fully, how one makes a decision. And what I felt overwhelmingly when we walked out of there was not disappointment that wasn't it, because it was the first one and hopefully first of many for us to look at. But there's this excitement in the unknown. And that's what I was trying to share with Ella and what I will share with her brother and her younger siblings as well. That like there's this joy in the journey, which sounds so cliche. And I don't mean to sound like a youth pastor with skinny jeans and boots on, but there really is joy in the journey, because if you don't know, that means like you still are on the path to finding out. They're going to figure out what they're going to do after high school, even if that means a gap year, even if that means a 4-year school, even if that means a professional program, but they don't know yet, but it's like coming, it's around the corner, it's tangible almost, but like we can feel it but can't see it, that's the excitement. And like I have just learned in life at this stage in the game to embrace that and find that to be exciting instead of daunting, to find that full of excitement instead of anxiety. And sure, there's some anxiety there. And for them, of course, these feel like big, weighty, life altering decisions. And to a degree they are. But to a lot of us, we also know that like how many of us are doing what we thought we were going to do at 18. We'd love for them to make those decisions and pursue their dreams, of course. But life changes things and things change life. So anyways, I digress. But I really am so excited to like go on this journey with them of exploration and like looking at college campuses and figuring out what they like and what they don't, where they're going to be and what that's going to look like travel wise. And it's just such an exciting time. So if I can look at that as kind of a roadmap for the way I'm looking at the next year, I think there's excitement in the unknown. And that's a choice, just like faith is a choice. And I will say that time and time again on this podcast. Yes, it's called Jesus, Coffee, and Wine. For me, faith is foundational. And that is a huge focus of mine and will always be a focus of this podcast. I will not apologize for that. That's just part of what we're doing here. And I love that because I don't shy away from that and I'm not going to hide that. But just as faith is a choice, choosing to view things in a way that allows us to see the joy and excitement alongside of the anxiety that is induced by the unknown, that's where I choose to be right now. That's what I choose to walk in. I'm not always great at it. Sometimes I'm a mess. Sometimes I stomp my feet. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I yell because things don't go the way I planned. I'm a planner. Like I will white knuckle a plan. And I plan for the children in my life and the adults that affect my life, whether they know it or not. And so that's just the nature of my role. And I love that. But also with that comes a lot of disappointment and a lot of change and a lot of unexpected twists and turns. And I've had to learn to be okay with that. And I can honestly sit here and say, I am. Sometimes in the moments, it takes me a little bit to get there. It might take me a minute or a few and a tantrum. But where I feel I more often than not land is, okay, because this twist, this turn, this change is only for the better. And that's just my choice. And I would encourage you to try that as well. It's not easy. That's why I need Jesus. That's why I need coffee. That's why I need wine and candy. So anyways, personally, I am excited for 2026. I hope you are too. When it comes to this podcast specifically, what I'm really hoping to do is more episodes. I'd love to grow this platform, not for myself, but for other women to have an opportunity to share their stories, to encourage others. I'd love an opportunity to have multiple people on at once and host a conversation. I'd love to hear from you on what you'd like to hear covered. If you have people in your life or know of people that you think would be a good fit or that have a story to share that you think has value, which they all do, but I'm not going to preach on that right now. Please send me a message, text me, email me, reach out, comment. I don't care. Share this. It's not about me growing a platform for myself. I truly just have this heart to connect with other women and to connect other women. It's not about my connections. I am sharing my connections because I want more connections for everyone else. So that's my goal for this year. Faith is always going to be a focus. Again, like that's the foundation for my life. That's the foundation for the conversations we have here. If I'm being honest, like I'm not interested in having feel good, salesy conversations. Like I'm not interested in just highlighting a local business, although of course that's appropriate when I'm talking to somebody that has a successful business and it's local or something that I think everyone can benefit from. Like, of course, like I'd love to support other women in business, but that's not my focus. My focus is a foundation of faith. I think vulnerability is something that I am like very passionate about. If I'm having a conversation with somebody on here, if vulnerability is not a priority, then the conversation will fall flat. And I don't I'm not interested in doing that. So let's just be clear, like vulnerability and transparency, even if that puts me or someone else in a bad light, I am allergic to lies. I am allergic to being fake. Agree with me or not, believe me or not, I can't do it. I've always told my kids, well, first of all, when they were little, if I would catch them in a lie, I would immediately say, who sees you when you lie? And they would go, Jesus. I think that might have been a bit of a parenting fail. Also, my intention was to teach them that the truth always comes to light. I will die on that hill. The truth always comes to light. It might take months, it might take years, it might take decades, it might take lifetimes, but the truth always comes to light. And so I am hugely passionate about truth telling, about vulnerability. And so for me, that's like paramount to all that I do. In addition to that, a little levity goes a long way. I hate being ultra serious. I don't take myself all that seriously. I'm sitting here with a candy jar at 44 years old. Like, this is just, well, it's my daughter's that I stole. So see what I mean? Like balance, So faith, vulnerability, humor, like those three things are at the center of every episode of this podcast, or at least that's my goal. And ultimately out of that is a community that will be built, that is being built, that exists, but I'd love to connect, that has some shared experience, that is built on that foundation of faith with a little bit of humor and a lot of vulnerability and a ton of grace. Like, that's my heart. That's really what I want to do. That's really what I'm passionate about. That's what I'm excited to like continue to pursue. I'd love to do this every week. It doesn't always happen. Scheduling people is difficult because in this season age of life, we're all busy, and sometimes that's on the guest. Sometimes that's on me. Sometimes I fail to schedule appropriately or respond to a text message because I'm the absolute worst. Like, I will text bomb and then go dark. It's not you, it's me. It's just what it is. But in my defense, a lot of times it's because like I'll get a message and I'm in the middle of something and I want to respond intentionally and like thoughtfully, and then I just forget. And so then you get nothing and you think I don't care, but it's really because I cared so much that I waited that I never get back to you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me ramble on, and thank you for just encouraging and supporting this project. I can't wait to see you more in 2026. I pray and hope and expect it's going to be a year full of joy for all of us. I also pray and hope and expect that when we are faced with the challenges that are unexpected, that we can keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. We can have maybe an extra cup of coffee and a bottle of wine at the end of the night. And if all else fails, at least we have each other and these conversations to keep us going, to know we're not crazy, or to maybe remind us that we are. See you soon.